Welcome to the adventures of self. Conversations with ordinary and extraordinary people as they explore what it means to be self-expressed. Come on in. Join the adventure. Welcome, Daniela Lanaia, to the Adventures of Self.
Thank you, Taylor. It's so good to be here with you.
Yeah, it's really lovely to take time this afternoon to create a space, and it really feels like we are, even though we're hundreds or thousands of kilometers away, that we are creating a space here. And I don't know what that means or what it has to be, but there feels something substantial about the space that you and I choose to come together for, choose to give energy to. There's something really intentional about a space that two human earthlings come to in this time, in this place, to cultivate. That has this sense of it's more than just a seed. It's the energy, the love, the attention and focus we give to it in this time.
Yeah, it feels like a beautiful meeting of masculine and feminine within this space. And I've always had that experience since we met of the beautiful heart space connection.
Yeah, we've had this sort of cosmic sister brother connection for years, and we often note that when we have a chance to meet and speak, there's this opportunity to play out and feel that union that I think we're all called to, that we all have calling to us, the sacred union of masculine and feminine energies, or yin yang energies, or however you want to talk about the sort of cosmic opposites that come together to create the whole experience that is available to us in all of its space and energy and iteration.
Yeah.
And you, I want to bring in some of the work you do, because I feel like you have a very strong intuitive sense about balance of these energies, the opportunity for the feminine to be held in the masculine, for the masculine to be supported and nurtured by the feminine, and often where we individually, perhaps collectively, are walking astray from that possibility.
Yeah, I've especially been working with the feminine energies, and this how we restore these sacred pathways of the feminine and of the masculine and the way of nature. So how do we return to our essence and these qualities that we carry, that were sown into us, into these bodies that we incarnated into? and restore that balance within ourselves and within the earth. And yeah, it's as we are part of this earth and we are a mirror of the earth and the earth is a mirror of us, this healing and restoration of balance that we do within ourselves is then reflected within the earth. And of course there's been we've been through many cycles, haven't we, of this, that if we're talking about the masculine and the feminine energies, of from balance to imbalance and one becoming out of balance with the other, and we're just coming out of a cycle where the patriarchy or the imbalanced masculine has had a lot of weight in this world, and returning to a place where it could become this sacred marriage even of masculine and feminine energies, as now the mother is reawakening, and with that the feminine is reawakening and reclaiming her essence and her power, which is the spirit of life within us.
Yeah, I mean, the sense of creativity that we all have, that certainly women and the feminine have an opportunity to manifest through the very creation that allows for each of us to be here on this planet. And I think seeing the splendor, the magnitude, the diversity of creation that nature provides to us as an example. And I guess one of the things I want to ask you about, because I don't know if we have, if we have a difference of this, because I often look at this opportunity for, the rise of feminine energy as like there is a balance you spoke about between masculine and feminine, and for me, I don't necessarily see that it is a an eternal balance that just becomes sort of a sum zero where nothing's really happening, because when you connect with nature as it is, right, we're in the northern hemisphere, we're in summer, so there's a lot of fire and energy out, but we've just passed the solstice a couple weeks ago from this recording, so we're kind of going into this descent and inward journey, and there is always this rhythm that's at play between these, but it is a balanced. I think that's what we talk about when we say that there is, for a very long time, there's been an imbalance in the overall energy in the world we live in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, everything moves in cycles, doesn't it? And we have the cycles of the day and the months and the moon and the seasons and the year, and these greater cycles of passages through time, of ages, of where we awaken and go into sleep of light and darkness. And so, yeah, everything is in this movement. And if we're talking about the masculine and the feminine, I feel it's cooperation and working together so that one nurtures the other and the other feeds and nurtures, so that there is this sacred flow of reciprocity which does bring life and create life. Like the example of the earth and the soil, which is the feminine, the Mother Earth, and she contains all the nutrients and the minerals, and the trees, which are very upright, and in that uprightness it's a masculine energy, but the trees send their roots down into the feminine, into the mother, and from there they draw up nutrients, and they're fed and nurtured and nourished and watered by the earth, which allows them to grow. And they grow up towards the sky, and then they produce leaves and fruits and seeds. And those seeds then they drop, and those seeds are received by the feminine and taken into her body, into the soil. And in there they germinate, and from there new life is born. And so this is a really beautiful example of that relationship between the masculine and feminine, and how one nurtures and supports the other, but they need each other in order to create this harmonic balance of life. And so this is part of our healing as humanity, is healing these places where we have first come out of balance with ourself, our soul, with our relationship with nature, and with these qualities of the masculine and feminine. So how do we restore these relationships, which is masculine, feminine, man, woman, and so that there can be a healing which can give birth to new life on this earth, to the next generations that are coming up and being born.
I really like that that word, that concept of reciprocity, that it gives to itself, and that the soil can't exist without the trees, and the trees can't exist without the soil. And you're sort of in a like a chicken and egg, like where does it start? But it actually doesn't really matter. It's to be aware of, as you say, the cycles that are involved. And we can see how the roots take the nutrients and the water from the soil, and that soil, in order to become more vibrant and rich, the roots that go and break through rocks and break up that soil, and as you say, the fruits and the leaves that come back down to the soil in the autumn and the winter, and die to create more soil. And so it's life feeds off of death, and death requires life, and it's in this constant thing, cycle and rhythm. And there is this, what you say, this reflection of who we are in the world, that how we are individually, how we are collectively, is being reflected in the world we live in. And there is this great opportunity that we're faced with now, where there is so much turmoil, so much chaos, and I think one of the things I want to just clarify, that what I get is there's an opportunity. Yes, there are external things to look at or to respond to in terms of how we're treating our land, how we're treating our earth. But as much, it's about how we treat ourselves and how we treat each other, because that internal reflection and what we're cultivating inside is what's going to show up in the external world, and vice versa. How we treat our Mother Earth is going to determine and impact how we treat each other and how we treat ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. We are cells upon or within the body of Mother Earth, and like a cell, when one cell becomes unhealthy, it affects all the other cells around it, and then the body becomes sick. And so everything that we see in the world is a mirror of the consciousness of humanity. And so the imbalance that we see in the world is coming out of our own minds, our own thoughts. And so what we are experiencing now, that this chaos, as we might call it, but even, chaos has order, and there is many things now coming to the surface, so much in the world that is coming to the surface that has been in that place of the shadow or in the unconscious or hidden, and it's coming out. So much is being seen, and with that we are truly being called to witness, to feel, to acknowledge, and to heal, starting from within ourselves. And I've heard it said that this time, we've had all these lockdowns, and this where the whole world almost was, at home, and heard it said that this is a time when Mother Earth has sent us to reflect, and to reflect on our lives, because we have created so much imbalance in the world that it couldn't continue. We couldn't continue. We've been causing so much imbalance, so much destruction. And so this time where we've all been called to stop, and so much that all over the world is stopping and called to reflect on how have we been living our lives, what have we been doing, what have we been creating, what works, what doesn't, how are we, how is our health, how are we taking care of our bodies, where is our food coming from, do we know how to grow our own food to take care of ourselves when maybe we're not able to buy what we need. And so in this time of reflection, where there's been not so many distractions, this time to really look within and to bring healing to all these aspects of our life, and to really start from within. And if we understand that everything that we see in the world, this world that is made by man, humanity, and so much of this is imbalance that we experience being manifested in nature, has its origin in our minds. And we can say that it's them who are responsible for all that, yet we live within this world which is woven by a web of life, and within that we are all connected. So where do we, what we can see in the world, if we can trace that back into our thoughts, how have we caused harm to others, to ourselves within our thoughts? And how have we contributed to the imbalance, to the damage that is taking place on the earth, within our actions, within our thoughts, towards ourselves, towards the earth? Where do we give our money to? What does that fund? And so it really is I feel this time is a great opportunity to reflect and to bring healing from within ourselves. And as we do that, we are creating the change and this new world that is being born up, from under the ground, from underneath, from within our own hearts.
Yeah, there is this in our culture, in our upbringing. We have this. I was talking to somebody a couple of weeks ago about the positive aspect of the masculine energy of competition. That if men or women want to get together and have a play at something, right? We say, okay, this is a play. We're gonna go play a game of football, or we're going to do something, play tag or something that has this sort of, we're gonna recognize that this is an energy that we have, and we're going to play at it, indulge in it, but really from a place of love, right? It doesn't matter what the score is, who wins, who does this. That we have this energy because the energy is perhaps naturally there, and when we get into something, it's this us versus them, and we're the right ones, and they did this, and my father did this to me, or my mother didn't give me this, or this corporation or country, or we as you say, it's like, what are we cultivating from that space? And I think that there is a lot of, we do have a lot of shadow in our humanness, and we can naturally feel pulled to that, and can feel justified by it on some level. And it's a challenge for me in my life as well, to see when that comes up and to say, okay, how can I use this for awareness? How can I use it for my own awareness, in how I am in myself and how I am in the world, as a way to, it's like the to transmute that energy as the leaf falls to the ground. You say the mother just takes it, right? Doesn't ask whether this is a good leaf or a healthy leaf. It just says, fine, I'll take it, and now we'll use this as fuel for creating nutrient, right? So that everything that comes up is this opportunity for reflection, and are we individually looking to, if I don't know, if there's an inundation of cherries or chestnuts one year, does the forest say, oh well, these darn cherries, they've ruined everything, or whatever? But there's an opportunity, and I think that when we look at nature, there may be temporary imbalances, but there's this overall homeostasis, in the sense that it returns to a balance, right? It finds its own balance, and when we look for things outside of ourselves as reasons or excuses or distractions or whatever they are, it takes the opportunity away from being with where things really are. Talk about consciousness and being in our own head.
Yeah.
And well, one thing I want to bring in, because I know you work with sound a lot, and the opportunity to heal through sound. We have this calling or opportunity for healing. It starts within, and yeah, maybe just to hear a little bit about your experience in working with sound, and how people can call that in. What it's actually doing on an energetic level.
Yeah, thank you. Well, years ago, I had a dream, which was a visionary dream that's been guiding me through my life, and it showed me things that would happen that I feel that we're living in now. And in the dream, I was told that sound would be this medicine that would carry us across the bridge from the old world into the new. And Edward Casey said that sound would be the medicine of the future. And so, yeah, I've been working with sound for years and years, from music and sound as medicine. And a lot of the work with sound for me comes through listening and listening to nature and listening to the frequencies of nature, the qualities of stillness, the frequencies of stone, especially stone at sacred sites, learning to hear the sounds of the earth, the sounds, the songs, the frequencies of the stars, the moon, the sun, and that which the resonance of these aspects of nature, and then from that that connection, that attunement, and also with spirit, to bring that through with sound. So everything has its own sound, its own song, and just like an instrument, a guitar, for example, it when it's in tune, it plays its say it's an optimum sound, and when it goes out of tune, there's a kind of disharmony. And so our sounds, our frequencies, can also go out of tune. And this is very much affected by our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, what we eat, what we put in our bodies, things we're exposed to in our environment. And as we retune our frequencies, our sounds, this restores our health, because our system is resonating with its blueprint. And so we can work with sound to help us to retune. And of course, sound also is so powerful because it is like the language of the heart and the soul. It allows us to really go beyond the mind into our senses, and through entrainment to resonate with these frequencies, or these healing frequencies of sounds. So sound and sound medicine, music, can be really powerful to really, help us to, especially in this time, to remember our hearts, to return to those places of calm, of peace, and to reconnect with those aspects of our essence, and these sounds of creation, which are singing, which are always present. And you mentioned about this kind of chaos that we're living in, and yet underneath that is this deep stillness and song of the earth that is vibrant and alive and very pure. So it's like when we clear the mind of our thoughts, we meet stillness. Underneath and in between the thoughts is the stillness. So sound can really help us to reconnect with that space of what is, and what is true, and what is, pure.
I just want to take a moment to highlight that sense of space and stillness. I was doing some sound healing here by somebody who runs programs for food, and talking about the quality and the nature of stillness. And from traditional singing and musical practices, the importance of stillness. There was a man who came to do a small performance using the shakuhachi, which is the Japanese flutes. And he was speaking about his instructor and sensei who had taught him. And the guy who was playing was speaking about that he'd been playing for 45 years, and he really was just like, still felt like a novice, and he was just starting to learn what this was about, and how we often think that it's the notes that create the music, the color that creates the painting. But if you really get into it, it's the space between the notes. It's the negative space in sculpture that we'll talk about. It's just creating the real essence of something. Even, I mean, I'm more of a writer, and yes, there are words that create things, but it's often what's left out, whether in fiction, that is left to somebody's imagination, their interpretation, their understanding, or even in nonfiction, that gives somebody pause for reflection, for understanding, that really creates the depth of what's being shared. And I was thinking as you were speaking, that because we're so used to this idea, well, there's a song on the radio or something here, we know the tune, we know the words, but there's, I think what you're talking about is something that is much deeper. In a way, there's nothing wrong with that, but the opportunity to tune into something that is underneath all of that.
Yeah, exactly. And like you say, with words, with writing, with painting, with sound, we can create anything. And again, it comes back to, what are we creating? And so, how do we use that if we're wanting to express, to create in a way that does bring some kind of healing aspect or calming the nervous system, helping us to connect, then yeah, absolutely, that space is a really big, or spaciousness, I feel, is a great part of that, because it is, in that space. And I think about yoga, for example, it's in the space between, and in the resting, in the pause, that we have that healing that takes place. And so, or in the pause between the breaths, where we enter that still point. So, we have these movements and pauses, the space in between the sounds, and the spaciousness within music and sound, which is very, very calming, for the mind, for the nervous system, for the body. There's so much to relaxation, like being in nature on a still day, how that the effect that has upon us.
Yeah, and of the things you were speaking about is really tuning into the sub-frequencies under this, where the space is, because it can sound, from a casual observer, it might sound a bit sort of woo-woo or insubstantial or something, but it's, when I hear you speaking about your willingness and your patience and your focus to connect with underlying frequencies of trees, of rocks, I think that can sound sort of quite trivial, but there is something very substantial to it in my mind. A lot of the ancient spiritual teachings are being increasingly supported by scientific findings and understandings, and this idea of vibration, that energy is simply vibration. So a tree, my voice, everything, a rock is vibrating at some frequency. Now, rocks are pretty solid and static, so their frequency might be much lower. The amplitude might be much lower than a hummingbird, for instance. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't have some base vibration, which is simply how energy manifests in this world, this universe. And what I get from you speaking is that by attuning ourselves to that, we're bringing ourselves back into connection with something that is much greater, much bigger, than us, and that in itself has. I think that's that has the healing capacity, because it's there's nothing wrong with music, man-made music. I suppose on the intention behind it, but this opportunity to connect with and attune ourselves to sounds, spaces, energies at a sort of very fundamental level of what this universe, what this creative soup and chaos that we're in is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. As you're talking, I'm just tuning into that, and how to become still and present and in a space of deep listening with nature allows us to enter and merge with the mind of nature, with the consciousness of nature, which we are a part of. And so the stiller we become, the more that we can listen to these sounds, the frequencies, we can really tune in with this living, alive, conscious mind of nature that is very present and awake and alive. And so, we also, our intuition, it is also coming from that place. It's the more that we create that space within ourselves, the more we're able to hear that voice of our intuition, to be able to read and feel energy. So, all the traditions that I can think of in the world place this importance on, and practices of that quietening of the mind, of that time in quietness of opening to connect, to receive, because we're not, as we know, separate. And we have the ego and the mind and this body, but we are part of this this web of life where we are all connected and everything is speaking to each other all the time. The wind, the trees, the waters, the mountains, the sky, the birds.
I think that, as you say, that's a practice, and it's in the practice that learning comes. Other people on the show come on and talk about meditation, and often people meet challenges with that in the beginning, or even decades into a practice, that it becomes, there is this what we're coming up against in the practice, but it's in that practice that we reconnect. And you say, of course, we're not separate, and yet, if we go back to what we were looking at in terms of our actions and what we've created, and the culture and our understanding, the predominant understanding of the world, assumes that we absolutely are separate.
Yeah.
Which, if you just take a moment to pause and try to conceive how we as humans could be separate from this world, this life, this existence, this universe, it's impossible. And yet, perhaps because of the disconnect of the mind or the ego, we have very much created this concept. And certainly, not only we will be separate, there was this idea that this thing out there is only for us to use as we see fit, rather than being, as you say, part of that web. And it gets me to something you spoke about, and I know it's something you speak about a lot. In the book that you and I have done together, there's always this. You use remembering a lot, and it has a particular quality whenever I hear you speaking about it, to remember our hearts, reconnecting with our essence. So I wonder if you could speak to what it means to remember, how we remember, what that gives us, or it leads us.
Yeah, I really like that, the word remembering and that remembrance, because it is this journey, this what we might call awakening, is a journey of remembering. And when we were born so sensitive and present and connected to spirit. And for many, if not most of us as children, we really had a sense of clear connection with our instinct, with our intuition, even with our purpose of why we came here. And if that's not, if we're not supported and that's not nurtured to keep developing in that way, we begin to forget. And so we're born, our soul is born, we're birthed in that state of awareness, and then we begin to forget. And whether it's the environment, what's going on around us, the culture, all these layers and layers of conditioning. We become conditioned into a way of being, and then at some point perhaps we feel the call to sort of turn around or in another direction, to begin to decondition that which we've absorbed, and to return to that remembrance of really who we are and our essence and why we came here and what we are beyond this physical body, beyond the mind, beyond the ego. And life will often bring us opportunities to awaken in that remembrance. And sometimes that comes about through suffering and illness and pain and loss. And, or even the death of someone close to us, where our heart is cracked open and we, the distractions, the restlessness is blasted out, and we come into that place of what is really important and begin to question, well, who am I? Why am I here? What is my reason for being here? And, you were just talking about this sense of connection and the separation. And I feel that also, part of this remembrance is this remembrance of our place within the earth, that as what we exhale, the plants are breathing in, and what the plants are exhaling, we're breathing in. And so, there is this connection through the breath, that we're all breathing that same breath. And the waters of the clouds that fall in rains and flow in the rivers and the lochs and the sea, and we drink that water and we pee it out, and all that water is shared amongst all the beings of the earth. And if we pollute those waters, we poison ourselves. And if we poison our bodies, we're poisoning those waters that are flowing back into the earth. And so remembrance and returning to our essence also is coming back to this this presence of the an awareness of this connection that is not really even mystical or unseen, unknown. It's right here, tangible in the smallest detail of every breath and every drop of water and everything that we put in our bodies, and every word that we speak and every action that we take. Is that nourishing life, or is it harming life? And how do we feel when we're nourishing life? How do we feel when we're contributing to the imbalance? How do we feel when we are expressing our gifts and our inspiration, which leads us to, or is an expression of our purpose, that which we came here to do? How do we feel? And, when we're really allowing that energy to move through us, we do come into that connection with our essence, with our purpose, with our agreement. And, that is, I would say, also a state of remembrance.
I had a sense coming up. I was recalling or remembering one of the first times that I met you, and it comes up as you speak about this, because I have a human response, and I think it's I'm not going to say that it's well, I don't know what it is, but it's something that I think comes up for many people. There is a when somebody is shown something that it's very difficult to argue, not that we're going to be in argument, but to maybe say to deny. Very difficult to deny the truth. One of the things I always appreciate about you is there's this clarity. You've gone through a lot of your own pain and change and transformation, and what comes through is a very clear awareness. And as you say, right, that this isn't mysticism that we're talking. It's, if you take 2 seconds to think about, well, if I put poison into my body and excrete that out in whatever form, and that goes into a water supply system, and then we have to purify that with chlorine and this and that, and it's a complicated system to try to get back to something, try to get as close as possible back to purity. And so there is as I say, it's very difficult to deny any of that. And yet I think when we're met with that sense individually, we feel it very heavy, there's a burden, right? It maybe goes back to it like, well, I've got rid of my plastic bags, I'm doing my little bit here, and what am I to do? There's 8 billion other people out there, and all of that, and we come up against this sense of how willing or how able we are in any moment to meet that call of remembrance.
Yeah, it's so personal as well, isn't it? It's so personal, and life is guiding us, and I feel like these opportunities or these moments come to us, or we reach a place in our life where we feel like that we're coming against so much that doesn't feel like it's working, that it causes us to maybe look outside of the box in another direction. And yeah, I heard someone say once, I love this, said that not all the fruits ripen on the tree at the same time. And that's true, that the pears will all, and the apples will ripen in their own time, and this is part of this evolution of consciousness, that we're all growing, we're all moving through what we need to move through for the growth of our soul, individually and collectively. And it's the call. It's the call, and do we answer that call when it comes? Because we can, and I, for myself as well, can create so many distractions, so many ways to sabotage, so many reasons not to do the practice, or and to kind of stunt the growth, which only leads to suffering. And so there is there's a saying yes, and of course we're tested, and it's not always easy, and there's a sort of kind of discipline to that meeting, as you know, the willingness to really meet ourselves, and to look to the healing that we can do from within, that we are doing not just for ourselves, because all the healing that we do within ourselves is moving in all directions. So everything we heal in ourselves moves forwards through the lineages, our parents and our grandparents, and I think the Native Americans say 7 generations forwards and 7 generations backwards to the children that are coming and the grandchildren. So all the healing that we do within ourselves moves and down the line through those generations, forwards and backwards and outwards as well, because everything that we heal in ourselves is rippling out into our relationships and our friendships and our community and the natural world around us. So, whatever we each feel called to do makes a difference, and it's the small things. It's the small things, all the small things.
What comes to me is this is opportunity. This is what it means to have a practice, whatever practice you decide is appropriate for you, and an opportunity to see, well, how are you being met in that practice? Because, as you say, I mean, we are human. We're not. Well, I'm not an angel or a god in human form, right? I have these human aspects that pull different ways, and they say, oh, it's okay to take a break now. Oh, it's okay to have this indulgence of food or beverage or time or whatever it is, that I've earned this or deserved this, and all that comes up, and what I find in my own practice is that not to bemoan, berate myself when that happens, because that I can certainly do. I can beat myself up for something, and what I've noticed in myself is that has its own egoic agenda, right? It fulfills this idea of having some sense of victim, so that I'm allowed the indulgence when I've done my penance, I've done my good time. Now I'm allowed to go do this other thing, and to go through the experience, whether I'm in it or out of it, as an opportunity for reflection, to see, well, is this my truth? I have the opportunity, I have the agency within myself to make that determination. Because everybody has that within herself or himself, to determine what it is that is true, really true, and that's, I think, an inquiry, that's a practice, that's a discovery, and as you said, made reference to earlier, we are going to be challenged in that, and we have an opportunity to see that as a challenge where we are the ones making the choices, the decisions, and responsible for what happens. Because there is, and I can relate to this, I've lived through this, I still live through this idea of that when something happens to me, about me, that it's easy to go into, oh, well, this is because this person, this structure, this organization, this crisis, this lockdown, this is why this has all happened, rather than really goes back to that reflection, this coming back to oneself, and I really get this sense of taking full ownership of what it means to be in human form on this planet.
Yeah, so so much resonating with what you just shared, and yeah, I mean, I have to work really hard at discipline. I'm a very undisciplined person, and I really feel it when I miss my practice, the impact that has, and the what does become nurtured when I am disciplined. And there's, there can be a lot of sort of friction to sort of move through to anchor myself within that. And what you spoke to at the end as well about this moving out of the blame and the victimhood, and being able to be with that which arises in our lives and that which we experience in the world, and to take it into ourselves and use it as a mirror and as growth. And that can be so it's such a deep work when we can be, and for myself, when I'm so charged that this one did that, or he did that, or they did that to me, and to come out of that blame and victimhood, to really question, okay, why have I created this? Why have I manifested this? What is my part in this? What is my learning in this? What is the opportunity here for me to not react and get angry and add to that negativity, or create negativity? How can I use this moment, this opportunity, to be peace, or whatever is that highest or high vibration that I aspire to be? And so I feel that takes a lot of that can take a lot of humility, and really letting go of the need to be right, and to really question ourselves, and to surrender and have faith in that which life brings to us, that is there to help us to grow.
The other word, when you said humility, the other word I was thinking of is humor.
Yeah, humor.
And just, I do, because talk of this can sometimes feel really heavy, and it's like, oh, I'm a bad person if I'm not perfect, and oh, I didn't do my practice today, so I've got to do 2x my practice tomorrow, and then I'll catch up. And all of it's just to see, like we're continually playing this game, and we sort of act like we're not.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that when we just say, well, we are playing the game, it's not to say that it's not serious, and there aren't consequences, but when we bring this idea of play into our lives, that, well, we had the chocolate bar, we didn't do an hour's worth of meditation, whatever it is that we do, right? It's so easy to get in this I'm a bad person or something, just to bring light to it, because
Mm-hmm.
when I it actually allows me to have a different relationship with what I'm doing. It doesn't mean for me that everything's flippant and doesn't matter. I still take what I do and who I am seriously, but this opportunity to in the moment, just like have this lightness, this okay, there are the E. Cummings, the poet, I think said something like, the nature smiles through a flower. Why does this, he going back to your example, it's like if you look at some of the birds and the insect, we were talking about insects before we got on the show, and the sounds that they make, or the colors of and look of certain flowers. It's like quite humorous, right? You can really sort of get attached. We can sort of think, well, it's because this attracts this type of thing, and this requires this, but we have this opportunity to always bring humor into our lives, our practice.
Yeah, completely. Thank you for speaking to that, because playfulness and lightheartedness and humor is so important. It's that joy. So it's the joy of the children and the young ones that bring that spirit of joy and playfulness to the earth, which balances that spirit of negativity. And so like laughter and joy and humor is a medicine, and it can just clear that negativity, clear that this like pull of our ego that's like judging, creating judgments, blames, and bring us into that space of the heart, because the heart is like playful and light. And so it is
I recall, many journeys that we've been on. We can sort of get into something that it can feel serious, and it's often, particularly when we reflect on something, that we have this moment that what connects us is the joy, the humor, when things went well beyond our expectation and some magical thing happened, or things went horribly wrong. and we're still here to tell the tale. It's like it really brings the adventure side out of what it is that it's like we have this choice about what it is we can do for ourselves, and the energy, the vibration that we bring to every moment.
Yeah.
We could just leave it on joy.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you want to bring into this space?
Just tune into that. I feel like we could both share some practical, kind of bring it practical, how we can sort of bring this conversation together and ground it into something that people could work with.
Thank you, Daniela. And it comes to me in how you and I have worked together. There are times, I think, when we have very different backgrounds, and man, you're a woman, and sometimes there's this sense of, I'm not sure we're kind of on the same page, or that we're coming at things from different sides. But I think there's always, for me, I always get a sense of a willingness to, there's an allowance, and it goes back to maybe this idea of play, that I'm very very open to connection and learning without a sense of needing to compromise who I am, or my truth. And in that, there there's a real, for me, there's a sense of two people being able to share individual truths that may not, it's like the an oak tree and a holly bush can live in the same space without feeling like one is intruding on the other, and learn and share. And I think that's really what comes through to me. This, and there's an inquiry in that. It's like, well, at any moment, if I, in conversations with you, there have definitely been times where you will say something, and it gives me pause, and it makes me think, oh, do I need to recheck where I am on something? It may lead me to say, well, actually, I'm cool with what I assume to be my truth before you said that. And there are other times where it leads me to say, I may need to reassess what I assumed about myself, you, my environment. And it goes to, I think, certainly what I seek to create in this format podcast, and what I'm continuing to learn as I create new episodes and new opportunities, is that listening, of a conversation, that there's a, rather than thinking I have to get these things across or say these things, to hold space for that to emerge and to be very present with what somebody else, you were sharing, and to respond, to move with that.
Mm. Well, you're doing it very beautifully, Taylor.
Thank you, Daniela. And over to you. How would you answer your question on practice? That, I'm not sure if mine was a practice, but it feels like it's a way for, it's a way I've learned to hold space.
Mm-hmm.
Goes back to our look at what the masculine is called for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what I feel I'd like to share in this is this potency of this moment that we are living in now, and this invitation to pause and to really enter into a deep inquiry on all levels of how are we living, how are we taking care of our bodies, how are we in relationship to others, who are our people, who are the people that we can rely on, who are we in service to, what are our gifts, what are the gifts that we have to bring to this world, because we each have very sacred gifts that we came here to give. And are we being that? Are we allowing ourselves to live that, to give that? And if not, then what do we feel we need to change so that we can bring those gifts into this world? And to question, like you just shared, to question everything that we hear. How does this resonate? Does this resonate with me? If it doesn't, is there more research, more inquiry, so we can really find that truth, what resonates as truth for us? Because, and this comes back to sound, resonance, we feel what is true for us because it resonates, and we will feel what is not true for us because it won't resonate. But I think that we can also, in some cases, we can be so used to sort of being told certain things that we maybe have forgotten that we can even question, and to really feel and honor that intuition that is guiding us. And this then, comes back to, are we creating that space, to have a practice, whatever that is, that could be anything, that calls us, that really helps us to come into that contact with our being, with our intuition, with that still place within. Maybe it is to disconnect from the media and the TV, and to have all these kind of influences and information coming in that at this time also can be creating a lot of confusion, and to just go on a sort of detox, a digital detox of to detox our food so we can clean ourselves out and then come into that place where we feel clean and clear. And from there, we have a much easier sense of what resonates, what rings as true, what is our truth, each one of us. And, that is so empowering and important that we are, I feel, that we give ourselves that opportunity and that gift. And, to really explore all these aspects of our life, our foods, the seeds, and what nurtures us, how are we nurturing life, how are we being nurtured, and how are we taking care of Mother Earth, who gives us everything we need and so much more. And so for me to really be in this continuous inquiry and, working through the aspects of the darkness within, this is what we each can really do that makes a huge difference in our world. And we're in a very potent time right now where the world is changing, but we can't stop it. It's changing, but we can each contribute to how that changes through the work that we do within ourselves.
This may have always been true, but we have an opportunity here and now in the present to choose what energy we give to ourselves, to our fellow humans, to this earth, to this universe, and to see what impact that has.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you, Daniela. I really appreciate having the time to connect. In particular, the space that we created here, and the spaces.
Thank you, Taylor. I feel very honoured and blessed for the invitation, and this time. It's always a joy to connect with you and to share. And just to thank you to everyone who is listening, who will listen to this, for your time and presence to join this conversation with us. And thank you.